and welcome to Freshly Served, the healthy vegan cooking show. I'm Heather, and tonight we're going to make a zucchini dish with some sun-dried tomatoes. It's going to be really simple, and what I'm going to do is take this video as an opportunity to go over how to cook quinoa, because this is a grain that a lot of people have not seen before. They don't know how to cook it. They sometimes have difficulty with it. So let's start from the quinoa, and I've got about 3/4 of a cup here. I don't have a full cup. I didn't realize I was this low on quinoa, but anyway, it'll work. So you take the dry quinoa, put it in a pot, and then put some water on it. At this point, you don't need to use filtered water because we're going to rinse the quinoa. And what I do to rinse my quinoa is I get my hand right in the pot and just kind of massage the grains a little bit. And what this does is there's a coating on quinoa that's a little bit different from other grains. Most grains you should wash just to get any dirt or dust or whatever from being stored off. But with quinoa, there's a coating that gives it a little bit of a bitter taste. And so if you rinse the quinoa like I'm doing right now, it takes away that slight bitter coating and it makes it taste better. So once you give it a good rub, all you do, and I just stick my hand in the water and shake it to get all the little quinoa bits off. So once you've given it a rinse, you'll see that the water is a little bit cloudy. And then all I do is just pour it off like this. I don't use a strainer or anything. Any grains that are floating are ones that are not fresh. And so don't worry about losing them. And don't worry about getting every last drop of water out of there. There we go. There's our rinsed quinoa. So now what you're going to do is add 2 parts water for every 1 part quinoa that you've got there. And this time you want to use the filtered water. So I've got 3/4 of a cup here, so I'm going to add 1.5 cups. This ratio is the key to getting your quinoa cooked correctly. If you don't use the right ratio of water, use some from my mug, the quinoa will either be too dry and won't cook properly, or it'll be too wet and soggy and it won't be very appetizing. Okay, so the last thing you want to put in this pot before you put it on to cook is a dash of salt. And this is not to help the water boil faster. It's not for flavor. It is to help the quinoa cook. Any grain you want to add a bit of salt because it helps the cooking process. Okay, so quinoa is in our pot here. I'm going to put this on the burner, turn it on high to get it up to a boil. Let it boil, let it come right up to a boil, and then turn it down to minimum and let it simmer. And quinoa is only going to take about 20 to 30 minutes to cook. Depends on how much you have in your pot. With 3/4 of a cup, it's probably going to take closer to 20 minutes. If you were cooking 2 cups of dry quinoa, it'll probably take closer to half an hour. So there you go. That's all you got to do to have perfect quinoa. Just leave it alone. Don't stir it while it's cooking. Otherwise, you will interfere with the steam that's cooking the grain. While the quinoa is cooking, you can get your other vegetables ready. And we're going to use sun-dried tomatoes in this recipe. What I like to use is the actual dried ones rather than the ones in oil. But in order to soften them up, what I do is stick them in a bowl and pour some water on them, and then just leave them to soak while I cut up the rest of my vegetables. So I've got some onions diced here. I've got a pan that's heating up over here, and then I've got my zucchini. And all you do with these guys is I'm just going to chop each end off. And you can chop them in whatever shape you like. When your pan gets nice and hot, you can add just a touch of olive oil. As always, you don't need very much. Then toss your onion into the pan. And just saute it lightly until it softens. When the onions have softened and are looking a little bit translucent, and mine have started to brown a little bit, but you don't need to wait that long, Then you will add the zucchini to the pot, pan, whatever you want to call it. Throw it all in. Probably not across the kitchen would be good. Stir it around so that it mixes in with the onion. And then you want to let those zucchini cook. So you don't want to stir it too often. Once those zucchini start glistening with sweat, you're going to add your herb, which I'm using basil. Love the combo of basil and sun-dried tomatoes with zucchini. Give it a little pinch between your fingers to release the flavor. Dried herbs don't have much flavor on their own. Stir that around to coat the vegetables. Then you're going to add some salt. The purpose of the salt is to help the zucchini cook. So it's going to draw the moisture out of the zucchini and soften them. So get that stirred right around. If you like, you can add a bit of black pepper. And then just let this cook until the zucchini are really nice and soft. Checking in on our quinoa. Now I'm really lucky to have some very fashionable pink glass pots, and I can look on the outside to see if there's any moisture left down at the bottom, which I can see that there isn't. But if you're not quite as lucky as me, what you can do is take the top off, put a knife in here, pull the quinoa apart, and see if there's any moisture at the bottom. Okay, this is important because the steam is what's keeping the quinoa nice and fluffy. If you stir the quinoa, it's going to get really gluey and goopy unless it's perfectly done. But you can see that there's no moisture left here, so if I were to fluff this with my knife or a fork, perfectly cooked. Zucchini are softening up beautifully. And then, finishing touches, I'm gonna get these sun-dried tomatoes out of the water. And I used to struggle with a knife cutting these guys. They're pretty tough, until I realized I could just use my kitchen shears and cut them. So much more fun. Try it. But you need to make sure that you're using scissors that are specifically for food. You don't want to be cutting your sun-dried tomatoes with the same scissors that are cutting your kids' construction paper or whatever. Alright. Get those puppies in there. And then, if you like, and I do because I love it, you can finish it off with a little drizzle of balsamic vinegar. Just for a little bit of added flavor. Stir that around, let it sizzle, let it seal around your zucchini. Smells so good. Get the heat off, get some quinoa on your plate, top it off with your beautifully seasoned zucchini and sun-dried tomatoes. And you've got yourself a lovely, healthy vegan meal. You can find the recipe at healthyveganrecipes.net. I'm Heather, and this is Freshly Served.